I have gotten some fun new art supplies, like some tubes of gouache that I've been playing with lately, some papers and notebooks, and a couple of vintage pieces. So let me share them with you. So first of all, I've been playing a lot with watercolor and with gouache in my sketchbooks. I love oil paints, and because oil paint is so slow drying, it's not great for sketchbooks. And actually, I do have an oil painting sketchbook that I made myself because you don't really find them because they're completely impractical. And I made it myself out of Arches oil paper. And what I'll do is I'll do a sketch in there and then just leave it open till it dries. But it's not practical to carry with you, so I haven't done a ton of painting in there. So I've been playing around with acrylics, watercolor, gouache, inks, all sorts of things for a few years. And I tried gouache a while ago and I just kind of hated it right off the bat. But I've decided that I hate acrylic more because of the kind of plasticky finish. So I've started playing around with more gouache. This is watercolor actually. With more gouache, and I like it more now that I've revisited it. And it helps me in a few ways with oil, in that with gouache, you really have to put the color down and just leave it there. It's not going to move around. I mean, when it's really wet, it will, but it's not going to move around the way oils will. So I've been working on just laying the paint down and leaving it there and not playing with it too much. Of course, also playing with watercolor, which I do really like. Here's some more sketches that I've been doing where I start off in watercolor and then I've added some gouache just to add some opacity to the painting. And for those who aren't familiar with gouache, it is a form of watercolor, but it's opaque watercolor. So it has some additional ingredients that make it actually cover the paper in an opaque way instead of being as translucent as watercolor. So it gives you a look that's a bit more similar to acrylic, except it's very matte and flat, and it will rehydrate as you add water on it. So it's like watercolor in that sense. So watercolor and gouache go very well together. And I wanted to order more colors. So that's what I did. So let's go over the colors I got and I'll kind of explain why. So first of all, Zinc White, of course. The big difference between Zinc White and Titanium White is zinc is a better mixing white. It's less opaque than Titanium White. The gouache that I had right now was titanium, so I wanted to try Zinc White, and I got a bigger tube of it since I use white more than any other color. So my favorite colors are green and blue, if you don't follow me already and know that. So I always order a lot of greens and blues. Even though I mix most of my greens, I wanted some blues to play with, or some greens to play with. I got this Pale Rose blush by Winsor Newton because I thought the swatch looked just so pretty online. And now I'm thinking it was probably a mistake. My typical color palette is some form of a yellow ochre. So I got yellow ochre and this antique rich gold that's by Holbein. I hope it's not like actual. Oh, it is. It's actual gold. So I've got yellow ochre, which is a color I almost always have on my palette. Cadmium yellow, so I can get some brighter spring greens. Ultramarine blue, which I like green shade by Winsor Newton. And then Zinc White and burnt sienna. And burnt sienna, it looks very brown on this label, but it actually sort of behaves as an orange or a red, depending on which way it goes. So I'll have to test this one out. I got a lot of Martha Graham colors because I wanted to test them out. And then for the greens, I got chromium oxide, olive green, another olive green in Holbein, one's in Winsor Newton, moss green by Holbein. And then I got a cobalt blue, a blue black, also by Holbein. And we'll do some swatches and test those out together in another video. And then I did get some glycerin. This is actually a product that's used for icing. I got it because if you put a teeny little drop in it, like a drop off of a toothpick, into gouache, then you can actually put it in pans. So like these watercolors here, you can put it into a little pan and have it in a case. What happens with gouache is it'll start to dry and crack and become kind of a crackly mess. So putting just a touch of glycerin in actually helps to stabilize it to stay in this solid form. And then you re-wet it like watercolor. Now, that's what I read. I have not tried it yet. Let's look at some of the fun antiques. So this is, oh gosh, guys. Okay, those who love antique art supplies, just take a deep breath because this one is really special. This is from the archivist who I found just in doing a search for antique art supplies. And this is a company that's run by Jess over in the UK. And she has just a beautiful selection of very high quality antique and vintage art supplies. I could not pass this up. We gotta figure this out here. So first of all, we have a ring on the back, so you are able to comfortably hold the palette. You're not gonna drop it, which is nice for a field palette. There is a water cup that you actually will figure out how it hangs. There's a little bottle for water. Oh my gosh, guys. Oh wait, hold on. Nope, I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. It actually might be, and I just didn't pull it all off. But look at this absolutely beautiful palette. It has these little enamel mixing wells, and then this hangs on here so you can have your water, and then of course your pans of watercolor go in here. So I will fill this with a few pans and then with a little travel brush. So I do think that this is a water bottle. I just have to figure out how to get maybe I'm being too cautious with it. I wonder if there are two wells. It's just the coolest antique watercolor box. Oh my gosh, it's just amazing. I've never seen one like it. It's very, very special. And I am actually going to use it. I love using antique and vintage art supplies. I also got this watercolor palette off of Etsy, and I bought it because it really was just a good price and also an interesting piece. And I thought that this might be a really good palette to put some gouache in and just experiment with it. This part does lift out, so you're able to wash it and everything. One thing I loved about it is how it's arranged as a color wheel. I hadn't seen that before, and I just thought it was a really cool piece. I wanted to get a sketchbook that was craft paper. I've kind of made some of my own and didn't really love them, so I thought I would try this one. First of all, I love it has a hardcover. I love that it has a tie closure, and then it has craft papers, and quite a lot of them. And my plan is to do sketches in these in gouache or in ink and just keep them tonal. I got some raw umber, and I'd use the Zinc White and just do some tonal sketches in this. I also got this hemp paper. I needed to see what this was. This is a very thin paper, and it does have sort of this fabric feel to it. Like it's thin, but it's very strong. And I thought that this would just be really fun to do light sketches on. It's definitely not going to be something for watercolor, but maybe some pen and ink sketches, or to even do some textile art on this. Or to use these pieces as collage pieces. So I don't do a ton of collage, but I just am always looking for interesting papers, and I thought this was a really interesting one. And then I got a few different khadi papers. Is that how you say? And these are papers that have a high cotton content, which those are great for drawing, for sketching, watercolor, all of that. And these have this wonderful deckled edge and a great texture to it. This is another one that's just smaller, and I wanted to see the difference in the color and also the thickness. So I think that this one is, yeah, this is a thinner paper than this one, and definitely whiter. I think I sort of prefer this one. And then I got this pack of sketchbooks, and it comes in two. They're watercolor books, or you can use them for sketching as well. Pretty decent paper, 110 pound, and I like the color of the paper. It's just a very like soft, natural white. These are cheap, which I tend to like more expensive sketchbooks and papers and all of that stuff. But what I've learned is that then I am really intimidated to fill them. Or if I have a sketchbook that only has 20 pages in it, I feel like each page is very valuable and needs to be filled with something that I'm really proud of. So if I buy a less expensive sketchbook, I have learned that I will just go for it. And I'm filling my sketchbooks so much more. I also really like a larger sketchbook, so I have plenty of room to work. And I like that these have a blue fabric cover, and they have this closure. So I think they're really pretty nice. The thing is, the binding is kind of sketchy. It's a little loose. What I did with this one is I added my own ribbon, and I have a blog post on how I do that, but I'll make a little video too to just show how I change out the ribbons. It's a small detail, but for those who are filling a sketchbook, you are an artist, you're a designer, you're developing your skills and your voice. And I think that something like a little ribbon is a part of that. And I don't want this little, cheapy red ribbon. So I just ripped it out and glued in a new one, and I'll show you how I do that in another video. But I haven't used these yet as far as like filling them out, but I will, and I'll let you know. But I can show you here. Here's an example of where the binding is just kind of loose. But that, again, that doesn't bother me too much, because with a sketchbook, I want to be able to really abuse it and just go for it. And I feel like with these, I can, that they're not super precious, but the price is better than like this sketchbook that I got. And I think the quality is better too. I like this fabric cover better than this kind of like, I don't know, plasticky black alligator skin. I don't know what it is. It's not the look that I like as much as this. So if I'm going to pick between two cheap sketchbooks, I'll pick this one. So those are some of my recent art supply purchases. In another video, we'll test out the gouache together and see what colors I like. Maybe you'll find colors that you like. And I'll also show you how to customize the ribbon. And we'll test out putting gouache into pans with the glycerin and see how that works.